Okay then, you've tuned in to Wayne's Electrical, and we are just about to dive back into that case of test equipment. If you watched the previous video, you know what I'm just about to dig out of there, so hold on to yourself and we'll get straight into that. Now if you didn't watch the previous video, then again hold on there and I'll get everything set up. In the meanwhile, have yourself a look at the intro and then we'll get straight into getting a bit of test equipment out of that case and getting into today's video. Okay then, thanks for tuning in, and in today's video we're going to be looking at that piece of test equipment. Yes, during the intro I actually dug that out of the case, so no messing around, we're going to get straight into it. What we're going to be looking at in this video then is a bit of test of instruments by Dilog, and this one is 9083P, which is a multifunction tester. You can do a whole variety of things, hence it being called a multifunction tester. It's currently inside its little storage pouch, and you've got all these straps on here so that you can hang it up and carry it on yourself and all that lot. I'm not going to demonstrate that. Let's get it out of that pouch kind of assembly thing and have a look at all the controls, features and functions that it can do. Again, on this, we're not going to be powering it up, getting any test probes in it, taking tests and all that lot. It's just be a quick talk about the bit of equipment itself and the features and functions that it can do. First off then, you've got it's like a flap on here that pulls down so you can get to the controls. That's obviously very handy so that you can operate it and keep it in the pouch at the same time. There's the controls there then. Okay, and then to get it out of there, underneath there there's two straps that go across the bottom like that, and then there's that one, and then that opens up, and then this flaps right the way down. There's the bottom of the piece of equipment, and that then just pulls out like so. There's that. I should talk about that in a moment. Let's move the test pouch out of the way then. Right, there's a bit of test equipment then, the Dilog 9083P. Now, I'm just showing the bit of test equipment, no test probes or nothing like that, except this one. Okay. Interestingly, that's like a little stumpy probe. You can actually attach that straight into the top of the tester, and I will try and get a zoom on it for you, but stamped into the side there it says Seaward. Now I've got reason to believe that Dilog didn't make that bit of test equipment, and I've got a feeling it was made for Dilog by Seaward, because there are other bits of test equipment made by Seaward that take on this sort of format. And, you know, it'd be like a pack tester or something like that. There'll be, down the bottom here, there'll be a socket, a 13 amp 3-pin socket for putting a plug in, and you'll have various different buttons and functions on there, and obviously speaking, it'll show up the test results on there. But that bit of test equipment, you know, look, the style, the way this is shaped around the screen and all that lot, with this rubber part on here and all that lot, and the battery compartment, it's all exactly the same, which somehow suggests to me that this bit of test equipment, although it says Dilog on it, I've got reason to believe that it was made by Seaward, hence the fact that this has Seaward stamped into it as well. Let's see if I can get a zoom on that then, and into it we go. It's just that creaky tripod. Right, it says something on that little flat section there. There we go, as easy as that. So that says on there then what what category it's rated for, if I can get on it. I'm trying to see this on the back of a silly little screen on the side of the camera. Is that 600 volts category something or other? Let me see if I can see that with my own eyes on its own. It would be 300 volts actually. Yeah, 300 volts, because obviously speaking, this will be connected into one phase. Yes, it's 300 volts category 3, and there's like a little double insulated logo on there. And if I turn this around, you can see in there it says Seaward stamped into it. So if I can get this positioned correctly. There you go, Seaward. So it's obvious that they made this. Let's see if I can do that thing there. Yeah, 300 volts, category 3. Like that. So like I say then, that little stumpy probe, it connects into the top of the tester. The idea being, of course, is when you're trying to hold that tester and carry out the test at the same time, it's pretty obvious we've only got two hands. So you would put this test probe in that red hole there, like that, connect that in there, and then the test equipment becomes a test probe. And then in that black one, you'd connect another probe in there, so you then put the whole, push the whole test unit into wherever you're going to test, and then the other test probe, which would be on a lead, you obviously push that in. And between the black probe and the red one, you'll be measuring a voltage or something. Okay, quite possibly voltage. And that's the idea of the little stumpy probe. So you can connect that in there and use the whole unit as a test probe. Okay, so yes, that is what that is for. So now I've got that out of the way, let's get into the main unit itself. What I need to do actually is stand it up against the wall. And then I'll swing the camera right the way around, and let's have a look at it. I don't know why that looks leant over like that. If I stand it upright, on the camera it looks like it's all sloshed over one way. What is that then? What's going on there? So if I actually lean that over, so it looks skew whiffed, it's actually now... Something's not right with that, is it? Right. So, what have we got then? Let me get that camera a bit closer. Not so that it's casting a shadow on the subject. Right, I think that'll do it. Let me zoom in on that central control then. There's the features and functions it can do. So, starting at the top then, going to the left, we've got continuity. Okay, and that basically, what that's for is like if you want to test a fuse or something like that, you put your test probes on either end of the fuse and it will tell you whether it's still functional, whether it's blown. Insulation, what that is for is so that you can test a power cord or electric cable, and it will tell you how good the insulation is on that cable. We've got a variety of test voltages, 100 volts, 250 and 500 volts. Yes, what this does is there's a set of batteries inside this unit and it will internally generate 500 volts and then punch it into that cable. Okay, and then down the bottom here we've got volts. Okay, so this dial here, you turn this all the way around to volts, and then you can connect this into a power circuit and it will tell you what the voltage is on that circuit. Okay, you shouldn't really use this for verifying whether a circuit is alive or dead, because well, there's always this option that if you're using it for that and you accidentally get this on the wrong setting, you might find that you'll either blow the tester up or you'll verify a circuit which you think it's dead but it is actually live, and you then proceed to take that circuit apart and be electrocuted. Okay, because you got this dial in the wrong position when you proceeded to carry out that test. Okay, now going over the other side then, this little blue part here, that says loop up there. If I can get on that for you. Again, I'm seeing this on the little screen on the side of the camera. Right, up there then in the little blue box it says loop. What that is for, it's for carrying out tests associated with the electricity supply characteristics. Okay, as you can see there, it says ZS and ZE. And, you know, prospective short circuit currents. And all that lot. One test you'll do will be live to neutral, and the other test you'll do will be live to earth, and you'll get 2 different test results, and they should be within a certain, you know, certain tolerance. Moving down then, you've got that big long yellow section, and just down there it says RCD. With this then you've got a variety of options to test out an RCD. You've got auto up the top. What that is, if you turn this dial around so that it's on the auto function, it'll carry out a variety of tests. You just push the test button and it'll whiz through the tests and do them all automatically for you. Okay, or if you want to pick a particular test, you can do half current, 1 current, or times 5 current. Okay. And then down the bottom there's another test. There you go, it says ramp. And what that will do is when you choose the ramp function, you push the test button and this unit will actually slowly increase the amount of trip current until it switches off. And then when it does switch off, the display up the top will actually tell you what the trip current was of that RCD. With all these other tests, all they do is tell you how long the time is for it to switch off. So say for example on the times 1, if I rotated this right the way around to the times 1 and then push the test button, it would then say, oh, the RCD tripped in 29 milliseconds or something like that. It doesn't, I don't think it'll tell you what the current is it tripped at. Okay, it just says 29 milliseconds and that's it. If you want to know the actual current that the RCD tripped at, you use the ramp function. You turn this right the way round to here, and then push the button, and it will slowly go up and up and up. And then when it trips off, it will then say on the display what that's the amount of current it trips at. Okay, so that's all what the features and functions it can do. Moving up then. So you've got the test button there, and you've got these 4 buttons here, F1, F2, F3 and F4. Now what they are for is they carry out a range of functions depending on what test you're carrying out. As an example, on certain tests, that F2 button, what it will do is you choose a particular test, and if you press F2, it will lock this test button. Okay. The idea being is when you lock the test button, you can push that and it'll engage the test, and you don't have to hold that button down to keep the test going. Okay, so again, if you're doing an RCD test, you can turn it on auto. If I'll just zoom that camera out a bit. Okay, there's the auto down there then for the RCD test. You can turn this round to auto. Press F2 and then press test, and it will, because you've locked the test button in, when you press the test, the RCD test will go through all of the tests, and it saves you having to walk backwards and forwards from this to the consumer unit to reset the RCD each time, because in the auto mode there are a series of tests that are carried out where it will trip the RCD multiple times. Okay. And in that mode, one of these buttons chooses the type of RCD you've got. The other one chooses the trip current, which it would say on the front of the RCD, say for example 30 milliamps. So you would press one of these and it would say on there in the corner there 30 milliamps 100, 500 and 10. Okay, I've got a feeling there's 4 of them. There's 10, 30, 100 and 500. And you would press one of these and you could select the amount of trip current. Okay, and then once it's done, cycled through all of those, one of these buttons you can press it, and every time you press it, it will show up a different test result on the screen. Okay, so that is what these buttons do. These functions change depending on what test you're carrying out. So there it is. I think that basically, you know, in a nutshell, describes the Dilog 9083P. Pretty simple, very easy to use, and it carries out a whole variety of tests. Now, years ago, you know, when I was taking my electrical course, really speaking, as far as I know, things like this didn't exist. If you wanted a continuity tester, you had to buy a continuity tester. Okay. Going slightly more up the expense range for the expenses, you could actually buy a tester which done continuity insulation. Okay. And then on, you know, if you wanted to do RCD testing, you'd have to buy an RCD tester. And if you wanted to do the supply characteristics tests, that is your ZS and your ZE, you had to buy yet another tester. So you would have at least, you know, 3 or 4 testers in the back of your van, and they were big bulky units as well. So you'd have one that done continuity and insulation. Okay, that's one. You'd have another one which was a voltmeter, 2. You'd have another one that done the supply characteristics tests, your ZS and your ZE, that'd be a 3rd one. And you'd have an RCD tester, which would be 4. And yeah, you know, as time went on and the technology got smaller and smaller, and if I turn this around, you can see that it's not too big at all. I can get hold of that. You see, so it's not too big at all. But as the technology got smaller and smaller, there must have been pressure from electricians all up and down the country to these manufacturers to make one unit that does the whole lot. And yeah, you know, so there we are. And that's where these multi-function testers started coming onto the market. Okay, they're generally referred to as MFTs, or multi-function testers. And the idea being, of course, you've got one unit, it'll do RCDs, it'll do the PSCC test, it'll do continuity, and it'll do insulation resistance. Okay, now on this one, where for insulation resistance, it doesn't do the 1000 volt test. Okay, it'll be 100 volts, 250 volts and 500 volts. Okay, you do get some where there were 250, 500 and 1000. So, there we are. What else can I say on it before we wrap it up? Well, it's a nice unit, okay. On the top then, you got 3 holes for putting your test probes in. For most tests, like insulation resistance test, you use the red and the black ones. Things like RCD testing and PSCC, you also use that one as well. Okay, when you get this, you get 3 sets of test leads. Obviously speaking, one will be green right the way down the length and you put it in there. One will be black right the way down the length and you put it in there. And another one will be red and you put it in there. Now there is this 3rd other test lead, and you use it for like, you can use it for RCD testing and PSCC, and it'll have 3 plugs on one end. You obviously go in all of those, and then it'll go down that cable, and on the other end of it you'll have a 13 amp plug. Now I did have one of those, but it broke. Okay, the moulded on plug on it was a bit of a cheap rubbishy thing, and yeah, you know, the lead was broken and defective anyway, so I just left it lying around, and one afternoon I accidentally stood on the plug and snapped one of the pins off. One of the plug pins just come flying straight off, and that was it. It was just totally useless then. And I cut the plug off. I've done a video on it on my previous channel. detailing my dissatisfaction with how cheap moulded on plugs are becoming. And then I took it out in the back garden and proceeded to set fire to it and cave it in with a hammer. Because, yeah, I was really ticked off about that. So there we are. Oh, and you also get this little stumpy probe with it as well. Okay. Again, I don't know if C would have actually discontinued this little stumpy probe. Okay, because I've seen other people that have bought these 983p testers and they've like done an unboxing video on their channel, and they get the test equipment out, they get all the leads out, the leads with the 13 amp plug on it, and the one thing that they don't seem to get out of the box is this. Okay, this little stumpy probe. So I've got a feeling Seawood might have actually discontinued this, but I've still got one. Okay, it came with this, obviously, and there it is. So I've got my little stumpy probe. It has actually got a split that you've got shrouds around that, but there is actually a little split in it. Unfortunately, it doesn't go right up to here, so when that's plugged into the tester, that thing with a split in it is actually down inside the tester, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to leave that up there. What have I got to do now? Oh, I know. I've got to get the case of test equipment out. I've got to get my wiggly finger going, and then choose another bit of test equipment for the next video, just to keep you hooked in, of course. I've got 10 minutes left on the battery on the camera. Okay, so let's get the case of test equipment then, and we shall get into that. Okay then, case of test equipment, let's open it up. I haven't put the Dilog 983p back in there. Okay, I should do that off camera. So let's pick the camera up then. You can have a look in there. This big empty space here, that is where the, that goes. Okay, so I should put that back in off camera because I've only got 8 minutes left on the battery now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wiggle the finger around and choose something else for the next video. Here comes wiggly finger then. Stop. Now there's something down there. It's normally hidden underneath the Dilog tester. And there it is. A little pouch. And it says Q-Tech on it. What could be in there? Well, you're going to have to stay tuned because this is just a little end teaser just to keep you hooked in, of course. If you haven't yet pressed that subscribe button, press it now so that you don't miss out on that, which is going to be discussed in another video on another day. Okay, and we'll go from there. If you can spare me a big old thumb up, that would be much appreciated so I know you enjoyed this video. And before we go, I will just show you this. That, and that. Those are the leads that you get supplied with the Dilog 983p and those crocodile clips as well. There we are. Okay. So you get those with the Dilog 983p, green lead, black lead and red lead. Okay. That other one is something which I was just given. It was in there. Okay, so there we go then. Another video on another day. We're going to be doing that. So, I'd like to say thanks for tuning in for watching another Wayne's Electrical video. Full high definition, of course, 1920 by 1080p. 3 minutes left on the camera battery. I've got to go. I'm going to put the Dilog tester back in the case off camera because, well, 3 minutes left on the camera battery. I can't do it in the video. Okay, so I'm out of here. Do stay tuned for that little pouch of whatever it was in there. And yes, cheers for watching this one then.